Forsaken is an asymmetrical horror game with 5 killers, but one of them is much more powerful than the others and it's not fair. 1x is supposed to be ranged, but it only really does well in close range, and it does better than other killers in close range as well. 1x is supposed to be a ranged killer. All of his attacks focus on either map-wide attacks or ranged projectiles. With this being the case, you think that he would be at his weakest in a close distance, but it's quite the opposite. 1x performs better than any other killer at close distance. His mouse attack, which does 20 base damage and the damage over time dealing 28, is the strongest in the game, only being compared to Jason, which also does 28 after bleeding, and John Doe, which does the base of 28. So it can be seen as strong as the other killers, but 1x applies a blinding effect as well as a stacking damage effect. With a killer that you think would be able to hit 5 times before you can get a kill with 20 damage a hit, it actually only needs to hit 3 times if you let the poison hit the player first. So not only does the ranged killer have the most powerful melee attack in the game, he also has the most powerful abilities in general. Entanglement, when used, has 3/4 a second wind up, and then it shoots forward a projectile that will stun the player. This stun will nearly guarantee he gets at least 1 shot, and sometimes 2, or a hit with his second ability. This deals 38 damage with 1 shot, over 60 if he hits another shot, and also probably it hits with the second ability. Not only does the attack deal 10 damage and allow the killer to deal much more damage after that, it gives the killer speed 2 for 3 seconds. After the survivor escapes entanglement, they get speed 1 for less than 2 seconds. So in exchange for the killer being right next to them, they get speed 1 for 2 seconds. Not only is a 10% speed boost for less than 2 seconds not able to help escape the killer after the possible 50 damage you just got taken, when the killer is still right next to you, the killer can also have speed 2 from hitting the entanglement. And it also takes a second after you start running to gain the max run speed, so that speed 1 isn't even going to be effective as it would be if you were running. For an attack that's so rewarding, you think that would be difficult to hit when it really isn't. With such a short wind-up time, you don't have the ability to react. Look at this. I'm holding shift, which means I start off running at the run speed, and even then I am still not able to escape it. Now imagine a player who's walking away, and when they run, it takes about half a second for the player to reach run speed. It's going to be even harder for them to escape. Or players who aren't directly facing the killer and aren't ready for an attack, or are low in stamina and can't just sprint away. At medium and far distance, while still dodgeable, it can still be considerably difficult, especially if the player isn't ready for a projectile from across the map. Unlike mass infection, entanglement does have a sound cue that cannot be heard from far away. It is not really told how far away entanglement can be heard, but mass infection can be heard from 400 studs away. Entanglement can only be heard from, I'd say, less than 100, and you can still easily get hit from entanglement from over 100 studs away, especially if you are behind the wall and cannot see the projectile coming. Entanglement, for being a long-range attack, is most effective and only reliably hits in the close range, and it makes 1x one of the most punishing killers, as after you make a single mistake, you get hit with a 10 damage attack and cannot move for even longer. If the killer is close by, once again this is meant to be a ranged killer, they can use an ability called mass infection and deal insane damage, which can even one-shot in this example. I guess using a character that has 15 more max health than the normal survivor gets one shot because of a single missed block, and it's just insanely powerful how a single mistake will cost survivors the game, especially compared to other killers. This person, after getting hit with Entanglement, I deal a total of 45 damage and easily get the kill because the poison and just destroys them. Entanglement is just one out of his 4 abilities. Mass Infection is another ability that I don't really have as much issues with, except that it's not really ranged well. Mass Infection, although powerful and has a considerably large hitbox, can only really hit at close distances due to the very audible sound cue. And I think while this is fair, it does kind of mess up the fact that this is supposed to be a long-range killer. It deals a total of I'm pretty sure it's 70 damage from up-close hits, which is just way too punishing considering that attacks like Entanglement already exist. The attack does 35 damage and applies Glitch and Poison by itself. It does not need this extra damage caused from a survivor making a mistake that's already easily punishable with Entanglement. And even though you can hear the attack, this can still cause problems if you are standing behind a wall and you can't see the attack coming. So even if you try and run away to get out of the attack, you end up walking into it because you can't see it. I think the issue with these attacks can be solved if Entanglement gets a lower windup and Mass Infection as well as Entanglement also get highlights applied to them so players are able to see them through walls before they get hit, because players should be able to see and avoid these oncoming attacks. Now the third ability, Unstable Eye, simply just gives 1x the ability to see every player on the map. Unstable Eye highlights every single player on the map with only a 1.5 second startup, and it lasts 7 seconds and gives them speed. It's the most powerful tracking ability in the game, with a super short startup and a buff afterwards, as long as being able to see every single player. Jason, although he gets some sort of speed, only is able to track 1 player, and John Doe doesn't get a speed buff, and Cool Kid struggles with tracking at all. Rejuvenate the Rotten is an ability that allows you to revive all dead players. These players will reappear as zombies that will chase after players when they get nearby. They go faster than players walking, so players will constantly have to use stamina trying to escape them and not get hit. These enemies deal 14 damage when they touch a player. This can cause issues as the player already is struggling keeping stamina and has to dodge attacks constantly, and then they have to run away from these zombies. This is just way too powerful for 1 kill. 1x not only has insanely strong M1 attack and the most powerful tracking in the game, it also has the most powerful close range abilities in the game that are able to hit long range. It just has way too much for 1 killer. It has blinding, it has poison, it has stacking damage, and that's just the M1. Abilities are only really that effective close range and can still hit long range, which just makes it more powerful. And along with the most powerful tracking in the game and the ability to revive dead players, this just makes 1x insanely powerful with so much stuff that it can do. Few fixes I can think of are either removing the blinding, the poison, or the glitch stacking effect, because this just 3 passives in one mouse 1 ability is just way too much for something that's supposed to be ranged. Also, they should make the blinding effect blur epileptic people, because if you turn epilepsy mode on, it completely bypasses this blinding effect. And I think that once again they can make the 2 ranged abilities have a highlight so players can easily dodge them, as well as I think that the attacks projectile should start off slow and then gain speed over time, meaning that it can hit long distance targets from a fast projectile that they can see and avoid if they're paying attention, but players who are close are able to avoid the attacks, making 1x more effective at range than it is at close distance like it is now. Zombies, I think they shouldn't need a huge change. I really think that the only change they need is possibly just like 1 or 2 walk speed shorter, so the player isn't completely draining their entire stamina just to dodge something that isn't the killer itself. Also, funny thing to note, but the epilepsy mode completely disables 1x's blinding effect, and kill guests even if they're blocking, if they have the glitch effect, because it pierces blocking for some reason, and resistance.